Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
me. Oh, Rob. Let's get the show on the road.
Oh, yeah. It's time to talk a little bit edge.
Yeah.
We're living on the edge.
Right, Steven.
I went back to that Aerosmith reference. Anybody like under the age of 35 is probably like, what? Living on the edge? It was a song in the 90s, people. Back when even then Aerosmith was old.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary if you think about that. Like,
Poised in the attic, right? That was like 76, 78.
So I remember like growing up, like, you know, Aerosmith in the 90s, and you'd be like, okay, that's like a 20-year-old band. That's an old band. And now look at it back now, and I'm like,
they're a 50-year-old band.
No. Like, think about it. What was a 20-year-old band? Think 20 years ago with the music we listened to. And that's the equivalent of what Aerosmith was back then.
I mean, you got the Foo Fighters who still rocking their 30-year-old band.
But that's what I'm saying. So like the Foo Fighters are the nowadays Aerosmith in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like timetable wise, it's just weird. It just goes, whoa.
Green Day, if you will.
Mind blown, man. I feel old. There's a reason I feel old. It's because I'm old. It's my direct synopsis on this here. All right, let's break out into the discussion here on the Edge Room, because people didn't come here to hear us talk about Foo Fighters and Aerosmith. Even though, listen, we're gonna have a music show. It'd be a great show. Probably we do some musical numbers, a little song and dance thing. It'd be spectacular.
It's been a while since we broke out. It's a song and dance.
Yeah, like last episode.
Yeah.
But here we are talking about the Edge Room, and listen, this is one of those things that, you know, you can look at this room and go, oh my God, this room did not perform well last year. You easily can, and to be 100% accurate, guys, 100% accurate. You know, you got like the issues of, you know, the Wink and Wilkins situation all into this as well. Obviously, you know, Drew Wilkins was the outside linebacker coach last year, so he was the guy coaching this group. He was fired because they weren't happy with what he was doing. You know, you had the up and down year of Kayvon Thibodeaux with this. You had, you know, the often injured Azeez Ojulari in this. There's a lot of interesting angles and aspects and part of this here that we can discuss here. But this whole conversation, let's be very frank here, starts with one man who is the quote unquote star / stud of this group. And if you want to say that, you can also put in, you can put some quotations, I think, into that, like star and stud, because he's still a work in progress, guys. It's not to say he's not going to be a true star and stud. I think he will be, but he's not quite there. But that's the man, the myth, the legend himself, Kayvon Thibodeaux. 17 games, 17 starts, 50 tackles, 12 tackles for loss. We got a nice bit of 12 forced fumbles. 11 and a half sacks, 16 QB hits, and a 58.5 PF grade. So not a very high grade. And a lot of that issues with the grading on him, I really think stems from his issues against the run. He's almost like he had like some people may hate that I say it this way, but I'm going to say it anyway. He had like an Yannick Ngakoue kind of year. Like, was really good against the pass, but if you really want to break down the numbers, he was really good against the Commanders. He had like half his sacks against the Commanders. But he wasn't very good against the run. He doesn't set the edge very well still. He's still learning that aspect of it. Like I said, still learning. I'm not taking that away as something he can't learn. I think he can. He's got the ability. He's got the physical gifts to do it. He's just got to learn how to do it. And the fact that the Giants went right into we need to get rid of Drew Wilkins tells you a lot, I think, about what they think of this group. This is a group that has talent and hasn't performed up to what they think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I was about to allude to that myself. I was like, you get rid of Wilkins, you sit there thinking you get rid of Wink. They're telling you, like, these players, they got the talent where they play to the best of their abilities, where they coach in the correct manner, where they could be the best players they could be on the field.
Be all that you can be in the Edge Room.
So, I mean, Next year we'll tell that.
To me, I feel like you look at a guy like Kayvon, second year in, 11.5 sacks. And this is, we talk about this, but we talk about draft, we'll talk about this again probably. There's certain positions that people go hit the ground running. And there's certain positions that take a couple of years of growth. Edge is one of those that it takes a couple of years of growth. You know, we will talk about some of the free agents that we're going to be having this year. And a lot of these guys are obviously coming off their rookie year. And some of them, it took a couple of years to develop into anything. That's just life at the edge position. You don't typically hit the ground running. You know, even spoiler alert, the biggest name out there, Josh Allen, you know, he had a huge year this year. This was his first time having a huge year. He showed flashes before, but it took year 4 for him to become a beast. So for us to sit there and bash Kayvon Thibodeaux in year 2 would be ridiculous. This is a good growth year for a guy that we saw potential and flashes towards the end of last year. You know, leaving out the whole snow angel thing and all that kind of fun stuff.
We didn't have to bring that up. Come on now.
I did.
I know you did.
I did. I'm that jerk. But like I said, I think he had a good year all in all. I think the biggest problem is that we're depending on Kayvon too much because it's all we have. And we'll get to the other names later on there. But if you had somebody who was halfway decent on the other side of Kayvon Thibodeaux, you're not expecting the man to walk on water like some Giant fans are.
Correct. Because especially since, you know, he's only one of 2 edges.
Well, but it's also what you're getting out of the rest of it. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they're going to bully the other side, that's not Kayvon.
Bully.
Are
we going Teddy Roosevelt or...
a little bit,
yeah. But I mean, Kayvon's going to his 3rd year. Listen, guys, he was a number 5 overall pick. He's shown you good things. You just got to hope the growth continues, and next year is where he starts looking like a stud edge player that I think he can be, and I do think he will be. And he's a guy who's built for New York. On top of that, I think he's a guy that can be one of those faces of the franchise kind of guys because he wants to be. There's certain guys that don't want anything to do with the camera, and there's certain people that love the camera.
He loves the camera.
He loves the camera. He loves it. He's like, oh, hello, I want to have babies with you.
Yeah. Even when he's not playing well, like he doesn't really take it out like on anyone but himself. Like he's
that's the weird thing.
Pretty good about his charisma in front of the camera. I guess that's the way to put it.
I mean, it's like people talk about him sometimes like he has this ego and he's like self-centered and all he thinks about is himself and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know where that comes from. I got to be honest. I feel like.
Well, listen, because they're taking just one side of the coin. Because when things are good, he talks pretty highly about himself.
Oh, that's fine.
Which is perfectly fine. But when things are bad, he talks very bad about himself and how he needs to improve. So there's 2 sides to that coin, and when everyone talks about his ego, it's only the one side that everyone's talking about.
I feel like though, even then, he's still like giving props to the teammates and stuff that. Like, and I think part of what it is you see a guy who obviously, again, we talked about, loves the camera, dresses a little flashy, you know, stuff like that. I think people automatically go to that style of personality because that's what they associate that with. You got to listen to the words the man says.
He's a confident individual. Like,
he is. There's nothing wrong with that.
It doesn't mean like he's an egomaniac.
He went into the league basically wanting to be the next Michael Strahan. I mean, all around. I mean, being a great NFL player, going into the media afterwards, like all this stuff. Like he said that from the very get-go. Like, great, I could be mentored by Michael Strahan because that's who I want. This is who I want to be. Basically, I want to have a media career afterwards. I want to do all this stuff. And listen. There is nothing wrong with having high hopes, having high expectations of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. Absolutely nothing. What do you want the guy to do? Complaining and saying people should be flipping burgers?
I was about to say, what is he supposed to do? But like, oh, I guess I shouldn't be in the NFL making millions of dollars and playing for New York media because, God, who can handle that?
Yeah, like I said, I'm feeling good about Kayvon. I'm feeling good about where he's at. I just want him to be a little more consistent with the pass rush and learn to set that edge better. And that's going to come with time, and we have a whole new coaching staff in here, obviously, new defensive coordinator, new outside linebacker coach, new linebacker coaches in general. And I think you're going to see some changes potentially in how these guys play.
I was about to say that giant D is going to look a lot different next year.
I do think, and I know this is kind of a controversial thing, so I've seen people pro and con on this. I do think he's also been put into pass coverage way too often. And I don't mean that as if to say he can't do it. What I am saying is you have two guys really that rush the passer on a consistent basis. Kayvon and Dexter Lawrence. To be very frank on that. That's what you got is your two beasts to get to the quarterback. So when it's 3rd down and 12 and you're putting Kayvon in pass coverage, it's not necessarily good. So I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to see him more consistently. Just pin your ears back and go for the quarterback, dude. It's what you do. You do it well. Do it. Play to the strengths. And that's not to say you never put him in coverage, but I just think I see it too often.
Yeah, and guarantee that will change.
Yeah, I really do think so. I really do. All right, next up, we got a guy who's been with us now for 2 years, Jihad Ward. 17 games, 9 starts, 24 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks on the season, 9 QB hits, 42.4 PFF grade. Not very good at all, guys. That's a very low. I feel like we asked the wrong things of Jihad Ward this year. So Jihad Ward has a specialty. He is a one-trick pony. It's a good trick, and that is stopping the run. He's the opposite of Kayvon. Kayvon passes well, doesn't necessarily stop the run well. Jihad Ward stops the run well, doesn't necessarily pass rush well. It's what they are.
Yeah.
But because of injuries and lack of other options, Jihad Ward was thrown into a starting role as opposed to a run-stopping role, which is what he should be in. And he was asked to do things that kind of took away from his run-stopping. So I'm pretty confident next year he'll go back to what he was and, be good. He's a good team leader. He's a good personality in the locker room and all that stuff as well.
I just expect him to do it as a Giant.
Exactly. I'm with you. I don't expect it. So he's a free agent. He had a $1.5 million cap hit last year. But he probably won't re-sign with us because of all the Wink stuff. He's like, him and Wink are like this.
I was going to say, they're BFFs.
But here's the only thing that when we first heard Wink was gone, I'm like, okay, well, that means that Jihad Ward is gone too. Jihad Ward has publicly said, I play wherever Wink plays, wherever he coaches, But he can't go to Michigan. That's where Wink is now coaching. So it makes me wonder, is the door cracked up a little bit for there to be a reunion between these two? I don't know. That's only an answer that, the people behind the scenes have an answer for there.
Yeah, because it could go 2 ways. Like, behind closed doors, we don't know what happened.
We don't.
So Jihad Ward might be like, yo, I'll have to bounce because Wink bounced.
Yeah. I mean, he could sit there and say, hey, I don't like what happened with my boy. I'm out. But he could sit there and say, well, I want to follow him, but I can't go to Michigan. Can't go back to college.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Part of me thinks he bounces, but
I would say 90% chance he bounces. But if you would ask me when Wink first got fired, I would have said 100% because he would go wherever Wink went. But because Wink went elsewhere, I honestly wonder if he'll end up with the Patriots because they're the ones who signed Drew Wilkins to be the coach there. So I wonder if that's what happens. I don't know. But it's a distinct possibility. I'll put it this way, that if we lose Jihad Ward, I'm not going to cry about it either, though.
No.
He's not a bad depth piece, but he's not a starter. So my big thing is getting somebody to be on the other side of Kayvon that will actually do something. And I don't know that we have that guy in this roster right now. I know one guy we do have in that roster, but that could do it, but can't stay on the field.
Yeah.
And that's our next guy, Azeez Ojulari. 11 games, 7 starts, 16 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 7 QB hits, and a 51.8 PFF grade. And this is his last year he's going into, guys, of his rookie deal. This is do I want to be a long-term Giant or a long-term NFL player? Because this year may very well determine that.
It could be his last year.
So this is a recurring theme this episode that we keep on having here, where I feel like I'm going to say it and I'm going to say it again. This may be the last time I say it to this group here. We're asking too much and the wrong things of Azeez Ojulari. And why
healthy?
No. Here's why I say that. Okay, first off, I hear I'm getting bashed like crazy for the health issues. Hello, guys. Why did we get him in the late second round?
Health issues.
Oh my God. The guy we drafted with health concerns can't stay healthy. Holy shit. Stop the presses. Who would have thought? I mean, what did we expect, guys? Nobody was drafting this guy who had first round talent until the very end. We traded back in the second round and still got him. What's like we got him at the first overall pick in the second round. We got him at the very end of the second round.
Yeah.
When he was looked at as a guy we could have drafted with the first round pick and nobody would have batted an eye because no one knew the behind the scenes injury issues. This is a guy that came into the league with those flags. And what have we done? Complained he got hurt. Oh my God. Who would have thought? So
would have thunk.
Here's where I'm at with him overall. Is he needs to be put into a position where he's a guy who does what he does best, which again, same as Kayvon, it's get to the quarterback. And he needs to get in a position where he's a specialty pass rusher that you put in passing down specifically, and that's it. And you try to keep him healthy, you keep his snap count down, you conserve him because that's what he is. That's what he provides. You want to put him on every single down. You want to put him in this running plays where he's going to get hit by a 350-pound center or guard or tackle. You're asking for him to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Conserve the man. Use him for what he does well. And don't complain that he's not an every down player who's healthy all the time when you drafted a guy with health issues. The hell? Do you think in the NBA they're drafting centers and they complain they're too tall?
It's like we're taking crazy pills here.
It's like, what the hell did you expect? This is what you got. This is what you signed up for. You signed on for the ride. Now you're complaining about it.
Yeah. Womp.
I'm just, it honestly it annoys me because I see fans bashing this man like he doesn't want to be on the field. Of course he wants to be on the field. Who doesn't want to play? He got a second round contract, guys. This is not a guy making millions of dollars a year.
It's like Drew, when you lived in Jersey and we're like, hey, let's go to Atlantic City. And 20 minutes into that drive down to Atlantic City, you're like, why is it taking so long?
Yeah. And then I get there. Why are all these shiny lights and casinos everywhere?
Yeah. Why is all my money gone?
Yeah. His cap number, folks, this year is $2.1 million, just to give you a heads up. Assuming he completes the year, he's made $6.7 million in the 4 years. In the 4 years. When he's a free agent, he'll make that in 1 year. I guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah.
Guarantee you that.
He's not a rookie.
So what I'm just trying to say is, like, you have to understand sometimes that guys want to be on the field. They can't. That's not the way the world works. They don't just will it to happen. They either can stay healthy or they can't. And if you have a guy who can't, you need to do what you can to help him. And putting him on the field nonstop does not help him.
No.
Doesn't help him. Point blank. So
injury prone.
I'll get off
100% of his snaps.
Yeah, I'll get off my soapbox. I just like I said, I like Azeez. I like what he provides. When you look good, and again, I get this before, but I got a sales background, so therefore I'm kind of been trained to read things in people, and I tend to be a pretty good people reader. And everything about this man, when I see him talk, tells me that he is a good person. He just seems like a very good person overall. All of a sudden, Rob lost his light. Are you still there, Rob? It's so dark.
Oh, God.
like I said, it just seems like a really good person. And I get, listen, I'm going to root for every Giant, regardless if I think they're a good person or not per se, because they're a Giant. But when you see somebody you think is a good person, you're going to root for him even more. So I root for the guy. I hope he does well. I hope he gets healthy this year. I hope he gets used properly, and I hope he performs. Because to me, a good performance for him is a part-time role as a pass rush specialist where he gets like 6 or 7 sacks a year. I think that's a legitimate thought process on what he should be and where he should be. That's a legitimate outcome. And listen, if you got a guy in the second round who's a pass rush specialist going to get you 6 or 7 sacks a year, that's not bad. If he was a 10 sack guy, he'd be a first-round pick. So, like I said, okay, like I said, I'll get up my soapbox. All right, Let's go off to the next guy here. We're getting to the backups now, the true backups. We have Boogie Basham first. Probably the worst trade we made last year.
Yeah. But a great name. Terrible trade.
Yeah. If only he lived up to the name. 13 games, 0 starts, 11 tackles, no other really significant stats to talk about. 55.0 PFF grade. But he does have one thing very important going for him, and that's just a $1.4 million cap hit with no guaranteed money next year. So he was not good last year, guys.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, though, is he wasn't necessarily great in Buffalo, and yet Joe Schoen traded for him. Joe Schoen was obviously on the team of people who drafted him. It's almost like Joe Schoen sees something nobody else sees in this kid. And I don't know what it is. I'd love to know.
Well, he probably saw something, or maybe he was hoping that light would strike twice, because, I mean, the year prior, we pick up, Azeez Ojulari halfway through the year, who was a known camp body that no one saw anything in. We pick him up, becomes one of the best receivers on the team. Hey, maybe he probably thought he could do the same thing with Boogie Basham. He's like, oh, I drafted this guy. He's probably still good. Just, the Bills were a better team. And
I think it was a move out of desperation. He went with a known quantity as opposed to risking getting somebody who maybe not be a good fit in the locker room or anything like that. He knew Boogie.
Could have been that too.
I think that's what it was. I honestly do. We didn't give up a lot for him. Don't get me wrong. It was a 7th-round pick we gave up for him, I think. I want to say it was. So 7th-round picks are typically, throwaway people that half the time don't even make the original roster. So it's not the biggest loss in the world. I just didn't see anything positive from him. I didn't see much from him in general. But I do think he'll be on the roster next year, at least as a camp bot in the beginning, because of the fact that, like I said, $1.4 million, no guaranteed money. There's no reason to cut him. You don't free up a ton of money, and you can cut him at any point and not have any worries. So, yeah, he'll be back. For how long, we'll see, but at least in the preseason, he'll be back. Next up, a man that I cannot believe we're still talking about going into oh my gosh, I can't believe he's still there. Oshane Ximines, just 3 games, no starts, 4 tackles, 2 QB hits, a 70.2 PFF grade though, guys. That's the highest PFF grade of anybody.
Well, when you take a fraction.
I understand that. I'm just pointing out. Listen, the man gets a lot of hate. And I got to say, I don't think all the hate is warranted. I don't think. I mean, if you were expecting him to be a starter and blow things away, great. Yeah, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're looking for somebody to be a backup that is just kind of there and doesn't do great things but doesn't do horrible things, that's what he is.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not everyone can be a star in the league. He's now 5 years into the league. And obviously there's something about him the Giants like, because he spent 5 years with the Giants. And he's a free agent. He signed last year for $1.04 million was his exact number there. Obviously the number goes up a little bit each year you're in the league. But listen, if we can sign him for that kind of deal again, with no guaranteed money, and bring him into camp, I'm cool with that. I have no problems with that whatsoever. But I'm a realist in what he is.
As long as he's cheap.
Exactly. I don't think anybody's going to break the bank for Oshane Ximines. I think that's fair to say. All right, we got 2 more guys here that barely played, so we'll go through them quick. Benton Whitley, 3 games, 0 starts, 0 tackles, 1 fumble recovered, a 30 PFF grade, a free agent. Again, if we want to bring him in with no guaranteed money, whatever. I don't care if we want to bring him for a camp body. I couldn't care less either way.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less. Timon Fox, next up. 1 game, 0 starts, 1 tackle, 57.5 PFF grade. He's on next year with a $915,000 cap hit with no guaranteed money. So again, he goes into the Boogie Basham column. He'll be on the team next year. He has no guaranteed money. There's no reason you wouldn't bring him into camp. He's been his 3rd year now with the team. So, see what he's got. But I'll say this. If you remember what happened during all the reports of Wink and Dable, one of the issues is that Timon Fox was given a different number because Wink said that he would be starting. I mean, so Wink said he'd be on the roster. I'm sorry, not starting. And this was news to Dable and Shane. That tells you something. That Timon Fox is potentially a Wink guy. Meaning that Wink was the reason he was around. Wink liked him a lot. Again, I could be reading too much into that part of the story. But it's a possibility that is the scenario. And if that is the scenario and he doesn't have any friends besides Wink, he's going to come in for a camp body and probably that's it.
Could be.
That could be. Potential. Yeah. It's potential. So let's go into the free agents, guys, because we have a ton of free agents to go over.
Uche.
You want to talk about a category of people where there are tons of options. Listen, this is where we're at here. Is the edge position. There are a ton of big names. If you need to pick up an edge rusher, this is the year to do it, guys. And guess what? We need to pick up an edge rusher because this is just, we need one. We need a Kayvon. Kayvon's not a Batman right now, guys. He's a Robin.
He's a Nightwing.
He's ooh, wow, he went there.
Ooh, I went there.
Some people think he's a Red Hood.
I'm okay with that too.
Either way, though,
he's a little bit more than just a Robin.
I'm okay with 2. No, here's the thing, though. I'm okay with 2 Robins because we have Dexter Lawrence
or Nightwing and
we stop. maybe it's 2 different Robins. Maybe we got Tim Drake and the new one that's Raj Ogul's daughter's kid that Bruce Wayne had with him. Damien, is that his name? The new Robin?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, we're getting way too much in the DC canon here. Anyway,
way more than
I'm okay with having 2 Robins, no matter what Rob says, because of the fact that we have Dexter Lawrence. We have a pass rusher that plays an off position where you don't usually expect that kind of pass rush from. So we're going to go over some of the top names, but I'm going to give you guys forewarning. I don't want to spend $20-30 million on a pass rusher, guys. We don't have it.
No. We've been kicking the can down for the past 2 years, even though we said we're not going to kick that can down the road.
We can't put a pass rusher on Kmart layaway. It's not an option, guys.
Blue light special.
Let's go over the options that are out there. And I did it based on PFF's grades of top edge rushers. But I also added a name at the bottom that I personally like. I personally think is a good fit. And I'm kind of curious to see what happens with him. First off, we got the big name, Josh Allen. We talked about him before.
Took the Jaguar. He took the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs. He had 400.
No, not that Josh Allen.
Oh, sorry.
Not that Josh Allen. Wrong Josh. Josh Allen from the Jaguars. 66 tackles, 17.5 sacks, 89.5 PFF grade, just 26 years old. Spotrac lists him at 23.9 is the expected salary. So I'm going to give you guys what they gave you because that's the website I use. Pretty good judge, but I mean, listen, there's always a bidding war. There's always a possibility someone's going to go to a little cray and give away too much money.
Yeah, especially if a team thinks that's the missing piece to go to the Super Bowl.
I would not be shocked at all if one of the big names in the pass rush category gets a $30 million a year contract. And this is the guy most likely to do it if the Jaguars don't tag him. What I really think is going to happen is the Jaguars will tag him. He'll be on a 1-year deal, or he'll sign a extension with them, whatever the case may be, and he'll never hit the open market. We'll see. Next up, Brian Burns of the Panthers. 50 tackles, 8 sacks last year, 74.1 PFF grade, still just 25 years old. Yeah, this is a guy I want absolutely nothing to do with. Brian Burns. Absolutely. He basically admitted to playing soft and taking it easy last year because of how bad the Panthers were. And then his people had the audacity to release they want a $30 million a year contract. Dude, you had a 74.1 PFF grade last year. 8 sacks.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Maybe if you double that because you weren't playing like a jerk.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I just going to sound bad, but again, guys, I'm a realistic Giants fan. Why would I want a guy who basically took an off year on a bad team and put him on the Giants, a bad team?
Yeah.
Call it is. So, yeah. Anyway, Spotrack's given him a 21.7 is their expected salary. So either way, too much money. I'm good. Yeah. And yeah, you got Danielle Hunter from the Vikings next up. 83 tackles, 16.5 sacks, a 78.0 PFF grade, 29 years old. Spotrac is giving him a $20 million salary expectation. Again, too rich for my blood. So I'm just moving on. Let's
No, I agree with you because it's too much. Like, he's a good player. He might be a good fit. It's just there's other holes we got to fill.
Yeah. If you want to pay $20 million to a pass rusher, guys, when we have less than $30 million in cap space, I mean, granted, we can do things, we can maneuver things, we always can do that. Don't get me wrong. But what are you willing not to fill to do that, guys?
Yeah.
Are you willing to not get a tackle? Are you willing to not get a corner? Are you willing to not to re-sign Barkley or not to re-sign McKinney because you're taking that money from somewhere else?
As soon as you sign a guy like Hunter, guess what? No McKinney, most likely no Barkley. Yeah. So to me, it's too rich for my blood.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think this is a position that we have to go crazy on. I think we need a legit guy. We don't have to go crazy. Now, here's a guy. We're going to start getting into the more realistic salaries, guys. Here's a guy that I've heard a lot of people talk about. A lot of people. Bryce Huff at the Jets. And obviously, a lot of them is because of the fact that Giants fans live typically in the New York area. You know, unless you're me and you hate cold weather. But they typically live in the New York area. The Jets also obviously play in New York. Therefore, people tend to know their teams by default because blackout games, and you get forced into watching Jet games if you live in the New York area. Remember that as a kid. That was always great. Oh, got to watch the Giants and watch the shitty Jets.
Or, just turn on New York radio and you just have to listen to how well the Jets or how bad the Jets did.
That's life. So Bryce Huff on the year, 29 tackles, 10 sacks, 79.7 PFF grade. Also just 25 years old, another really young guy. Spotrac lists them as a $9.2 million expected salary next year. That's not bad. That's now in the realm of where I'm willing to spend. I think $10 million is kind of that ceiling for me of where I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a guy like this, okay, yeah, I would like to spend a little bit less. But you also got to take value where value's at.
Yeah. Here's my biggest concern I have with this guy, though. He never had, prior to this year, more than 3.5 sacks in a season in any of his prior 3 seasons. So it's not like we have a 15-year-old veteran. We have all these different years, only 3 prior seasons to this. But still, 3.5 sacks was his highest prior to this year. Everybody who listens to the show on a regular basis knows my theory. I don't like to buy high. I don't like to buy off a career year. Because there's always that concern. Now, at the same point, if he does this again, we talked about this yesterday with Dexter Lawrence.
I was about to say, Dexter Lawrence is a great example of the complete opposite.
if he repeats this year, next year, whoever signs him is going to look like they got a freaking bargain, probably.
Yeah.
But it's a risk you take. It's a risk reward kind of scenario at that point. And if you're somebody who likes to gamble, go for it. This is a good gamble pick. This is a good value pick.
It's like shopping on Temu or whatever that app is called now.
But my biggest concern I have is he's never been really a full-time starter. So he played 42% of the defensive snaps last year for the Jets. The prior seasons, his percentages, 20%, 51%, 30%. So I have some concerns because you're asking a guy to be the guy who's never been the guy. Just based on the snap count. Can he do it if you put him in an 80% snap rate? Does he then go to 14, 15 sacks and go with a crazy year? I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns with this guy. And I think people look at him just because I think, again, people living in New York area and seeing him on a regular basis when he plays for the Jets go, okay, here's a guy I would love to have. Let's get him. But let's not kid ourselves and not think there's not risk to go with it. Because there's definitely risks going on there, guys. And, next up after him is another guy that definitely comes with risks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a big name. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear a lot of people interested in him because he's a big name. That's what it all boils down to. And that's Chase Young. He was when he came out of college, he was this force, supposedly. He was the best pass rusher in that draft. He was going to be an automatic all-pro kind of player. Like, that's the way he was touted as. Like, he was probably the most touted non-quarterback in a lot of years. And he hasn't lived up to that, guys. Rob and I called that out last year when people were like acting like this man walks in water. We're like, he hasn't done it yet. Stop giving the man credit for what he supposedly has done that he hasn't.
Yeah, he got hurt this one year. And like, oh, he could have been so great because the injury, blah, blah.
Yeah. So last year, obviously, he split time with the Commanders and the Niners because he got traded mid-season. 25 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 74.4 PFF grade. And he's still just 24 years old, guys. He's as young as some of the guys coming out in this draft. That's one of the really scary parts about this. Spotrac's suggesting a $13 million average salary for him. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to have somebody fall in love with the name, and they're going to overpay the hell out of him.
Let it not be us.
Exactly. I do think that he is a talented guy. I do think he's his own worst enemy. If you listen to stuff coming out of San Francisco, there was a lot of people out there saying that he was taking plays off. He wasn't quite, wasn't into it. Didn't live up to that quote unquote 49er way. So I don't know. Like I said, that'd be a guy that would scare the crud out of me, and I would take him right off my list for that reason alone. If I'm hearing that kind of stuff,
100%.
I don't want a guy like that. I want a guy who's going to be a lunch pail guy who's going to put the work in, because that's contagious. When you're around that, think about it, your own job. If you work around people who are happy people overall, that go to work and put in effort, that makes you.
They don't have to be the best. They don't have to be the best. But if they're above average, doing well, and you got that guy that is great, and then he goes down, and he goes up, and he goes down. That's also contagious too. Like, oh, everyone's high, everyone's low, everyone's high. But you got that guy that's consistently put in as much as he can put it in, and you're a better worker than he is. And you're like, oh, damn, look at Steve over here. He's constantly putting the work in.
Yeah.
Then you constantly put the work in at a higher level than Steve does.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a contagious thing, and I don't want that kind of contagion in the locker room. I don't. Next up, a guy that I don't think really got enough credit last year for what he did. Jonathan Greenard, from the Texans, 26 years old, 52 tackles, 12.5 sacks, 78.2 PFF grade. That's a legit season, guys. That's a legit freaking season. Now, one concern I should say right off the bat for you guys, he played in a 4-3 defense as an outside linebacker. He's played edge before, but he was a 4-3 guy last year. So there is some concern with that, obviously. He also has, much like Chase Young, some injury issues. He's only played in 48 of the possible 66 games he could have played in his career. He missed 9 games in 22. First season over 8 sacks last year, guys, though. So I look at it as the guy that Spotrac's listing a $13.4 million salary. So this is the guy who's going to be another boom or bust for me because he's got the injury concerns. Is he coming off his best year? But he's also young and had a great year.
Yeah.
So there's pros and there's cons, guys. To me, I don't want a part of that. I have enough guys with injury issues on this roster already. I'm good. I don't need
80% of
them. Yeah, I'm good. I don't need him. Yeah. Let's get to the first guy that I actually have in the quote unquote green category that I'm good with. And this is a guy that is, I would say this, if for me to say I'd want him, I'd have to know him personally because I'd want to know why he's moved around so much in this league. And I want to kind of get a vibe for who he is as a person. But Jadeveon Clowney, who played with the Ravens last year, 43 tackles, 9.5 sacks, an 85.7 PFF grade. And I know it feels like he's played forever. He's 31 years old, guys, though. He's still got years. This is a guy that basically 9.5 sacks ties his career best. He's done that a couple times now. Never had a double-digit sack season. But he's also excellent against the run. And that's one thing that you don't really hear enough on edge people because it's something that doesn't show up in stats necessarily. He is excellent at setting the edge and forcing guys that maybe want to do a sweep off the tackle to have to go sweep like towards the end zone, get towards the sideline because he's just right there plugging that hole. That's what he does. He's good at that. He stops the short, wheel routes, stuff like that. He does this kind of stuff that you don't see on the stat line. He's a very good player that unfortunately never gets the credit because he moves around so much and because of the fact he doesn't have a high sack number. And he's not an all-time great. I'm not trying to go crazy like that, but he's a legit good, solid player.
Yes. I mean, he also lived in the shadow of Watt when he got drafted. So,
and still had 9 sacks a year, and that's it when he was playing against Watt. And Myles Garrett in Cleveland. He's been a Robin basically for much of his career.
No, yeah.
Now here's your Nightwing. There you go. You wanted a Nightwing. There's your Nightwing.
It's the Red Hood. We got the Nightwing.
But like I said, I think that's where you're looking at with him is he's a guy that if you don't need a Batman, but you want a solid guy who plays the run, plays the pass, has a track record in this league, has gone to multiple teams and shown similar success on multiple teams. This is a guy. This is a safe pick, guys.
And you take a guy like this who, like you just said, good against the run, and who our Robin or our Nightwing is not good against the run. You don't think the two of them are going to talk? You don't think it's going to help them out?
Yeah. I would take him in a heartbeat. Spotrac lists him at a $7.2 million salary as their expectation too. That's it. That's a low, I think. I think honestly he's gonna be a little more than my ceiling. I said at $10 million where I want to be. And listen, if I got to crack the ceiling a little bit to get a guy that I think is a perfect fit, there's always exceptions to every rule.
Yeah. Well, and like I just said, like if he helps Tibbs work on his run defense as well, it's worth it.
Yeah. It definitely is. All right, next up, Zadarius Smith played last year with the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, former Packer, former Viking. 27 tackles, 5.5 sacks last year, 82.6 PFF grade, and he's 31 years old now. He's had 10 or more sacks in 3 out of the last 4 seasons prior to this. The only season he didn't have that, of those 4, he played 1 game in 21. I think you could excuse somebody not getting 10 sacks in the season. They played.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. It seems a little.
60 minutes.
And he's had
something.
And he said his health issues have been covered throughout the year. So I'm not worried about him, being a consistently hurt guy like a Chase Young or, some of those kind of guys. He's been healthy for the year. He had 1 year he got hurt in week 1 and just that ended his season. Spotrac listed him as a $12.4 million expected salary. That guy's way too rich for my blood. As much as I like the player, that's way too rich for my blood. So I'm good. Next up, you got and you know what? I gotta say this. I should have looked up to verify the pronunciation of his name beforehand because it drives me nuts when I listen to podcasts and they say the names wrong. Especially last year was when we got Bobby Okereke and people were like Okereke and Okereke. The people couldn't pronounce his name worth anything. Josh, I'm gonna presume it's Uche. UCHE, the Patriots. I gotta admit that besides our Patriot game, I didn't really watch a lot of the Patriots last year.
No, I didn't. Not even New England's.
I he was a big name in 22, and I'm drawing a brain fart right now as we're recording exactly how to pronounce the name here. 15 tackles, 3 sacks, 57.1 PFF grade last year. He's 25 years old, and 22 is why he's on this list. In 22, he had 11.5 sacks. But he's a pass rush specialist is what he is. Never plays more than 30% of the passing of the defensive snaps. So interesting that I said that with Ojulari. Here's another guy that you can go ahead and put in there for a couple of snaps like that. Split the time maybe with Ojulari. And the two of them combined, are your other edge. Spotrac lists him as a $8.3 million salary. So again, within range of where we want to be. What just scares me a little bit is I look at him and I kind of compare him to, a guy like Bryce Huff. So Bryce Huff and him are kind of interesting in the fact that if you combine their 22 and 23, they had similar production. It's just one had a good year in 23 and one had a good year in 22. So is one of them worth $8 million and the other one then now, worth $9 million? And again, we're talking $1 million difference there, but they had similar 2 years. Why would I not want to save the $1 million and have that for somebody else? And again, I can see where you can go. You know what? This guy did it last year. I want the guy to do it last year. It's a reasonable assumption.
But you can also look at it like how good were the Patriots last year, and
and that's 100% what it was.
Too, but
you had not only did he have that, but he ended up having to be the guy because Matt Judon was injured for much of the year. I'm trying to look up right now as we talk how many games he missed last year. He said 4 games. So you basically had this guy now who was a Robin asking him to be a Batman.
Yeah,
he's not a Batman. So put him in a role that makes sense for him, and you can see this guy potentially flourish again. Because when you're double teaming a guy who's a Robin, that's not good. Double teaming a Robin makes him a young Bruce Wayne when his parents got killed and couldn't stop them. It is what it is. We're using the Batman reference like crazy tonight.
Pros over.
But I'm just saying, like, that's not the pearl necklace, the actual pearl necklace. I'm just saying.
That pearl necklace.
Just saying, like, it's like it's going to happen when you have no other pass rusher, and he's put in that position. He got doubled all last year. That's why he has 3.5 sacks, and that's 3 sacks, and that's it. But again, if you put him, I think, with a guy like Ojulari, I think that's a good 1-2 combo on the side that you keep on just flipping him back and forth at that point there. And maybe that helps keep Ojulari healthy next year.
Yeah, keep them both fresh, keep them both, running down and going against,
And you hope Kayvon is the Batman that you want him to be. Because, guys, we drafted him 5th overall. He better be a goddamn Batman. If he's not, then that's a bad pick. I hate to say it that way, but it is. Doesn't make him a bad. Let me be very clear on this. Doesn't make him a bad player if he doesn't turn to a Batman. It makes it a bad pick.
Correct.
There's a difference. He's already a good player. He's already a legit NFL player in this league. But if he's not a Batman, it's a bad pick because you want to pick a Batman at pick 5.
You want a Batman in your top 10. Constantly.
Exactly. Next up, we have a guy that I feel like has been talked about to the New York Giants there every single year. This is a guy the Giants have clearly wanted every single offseason, just never gotten the chance to get because, money and all that kind of fun stuff here. Leonard Floyd, who played for the Bills last year, 32 tackles, 10.5 sacks, 56.3 PFF grade, 31 years old. So still got some years there, but he's not a spring chicken anymore. Spotrac's listing him as an estimate at $8.1 million average salary. And I think a lot of that, probably to be very frank, is because he's 31. The guys that get the big contracts, the guys who are 26, just coming off their rookie deals.
Those young guys, the young blood.
Exactly, because they're hoping they haven't reached their peak. I think it's safe to say that 31 years old, you've reached your peak. It's just a matter of when do you start climbing down the mountain again. So, listen, you got a guy that, again, 10.5 sacks, but a 56.3 PFF grade. What does that tell you? He didn't do very good against the run.
Correctamundo.
But he's still a legit talent in this league. So if you can get him at $8 million, I've seen a lot worse. So, and like I said, the Giants every single year, remember they wanted this guy in the draft. Like we got traded up on because everybody knew the Giants wanted him in the draft. Well, it's probably like 10 years ago now at this point.
It feels like it.
it probably 31 in all fairness. People come out 21, 22 usually, minus these COVID year kids that are 30 years old and coming out of the draft now. I had to look it up. Yeah, 2016, he was the 9th overall pick. Yeah.
So 8 years ago. Yeah.
And that was the Bears traded a 4th round pick and went up from 11 to 9 to leapfrog us because everybody and their mother knew that we wanted them. So we didn't get him. That was back. We had like no linebackers that were any good at all.
Maybe
that 10-year stretch.
Yeah.
Next up, we got one last guy. This is the guy I added to the list. I'm adding this guy. Screw you, PFF. We're doing it because this is a good player here that for some reason is not on the list. I think he is a perfect, as Eartha Kitt would say, perfect fit.
Kitty cat.
For the New York Football Giants. AJ Espinosa from the Buffalo Bills. So obviously Joe Shane probably has some kind of relationship with his people. Just throwing that out there as well. Obviously Joe Shane knows him well. Probably scouted him a lot. 20 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 80.3 PFF grade. Still just 25 years old, so another younger guy. They're averaging him, Spotrac suggesting a $5.6 million salary for him. That's what I like.
Nice, cheap.
I've said it before, guys. I'm saying it again. We are not at the position to spend like crazy. You spend smartly. And that's a smart buy there. If that's the price. Again, you can guess prices all you want on what it's going to cost to go ahead and sign a guy. $5.6 million, though, if that is the number that this man goes for, that is a freaking steal as far as I'm concerned. Absolute steal. Now, he only played, and it plays about 40% of the snaps typically with the Bills. But keep in mind, the Bills are loaded with talent. So you give him a chance to play more. You have Ojulari if you need to split some snaps with him at that point. And this, like I said, to me, this is a good get. He's gotten 6.5 sacks, by the way, guys, both of the last 2 years, playing 40% of the snaps. Now, I am not the best at math. I know I'm not the best, and Rob knows I love to break out my calculator and do the math. I don't think I need the calculator for this one. So let's say hypothetically he's doing 40% of the snaps. He's got 6.5 snaps in the season, 6.5 sacks in the season. We're going to put him to 80%. That would double his number, which would put him at 13 sacks on the season. Granted, the math doesn't always work out that kind of way. I'm just saying, this is a guy who's kind of sat as a backup kind of player with them because of the talent they have, but a guy they like and a guy they think has a lot of talent. But his rookie contract is now up. And he can go somewhere and be a true starter. And I think this is a guy that we should look at because he's going to be cheap. He's going to be a guy that you can get on like a 4-year deal probably for that kind of number. Imagine getting a guy like this. Let's say we get 4 years, $28 million, and the guy turns into, let's say, a 9-sack season guy. Even let's say nothing crazy. Let's say 9 sacks a season.
Yeah.
And does decent against the run because look at that PFF grade, guys. I feel like I'm kissing PFF's butt here all the time with these things, but there's things again that don't show up on stats. Let me
get that off your notes for you.
I'm just saying, like, there's things that don't show up in stats, and that's one thing I like to use PFF for that reason. 80.3 PFF grade. What does that tell you? He's only seeing 40% of the defensive snaps. He gets 6.5 sacks. So he's obviously doing good against the pass. At least getting the quarterback.
Great against the run.
Yeah, you're doing it great against the run if you have that high of a PFF grade as well. Again, $5.6 million salary is what they're expecting. Joe Shane, here's your guy. Get it done. Get her done. You know what? Get her done. And I'll say this: I didn't scour the free agent market like where I'm looking at every single stat and everything. I looked at names and I'm like, who makes sense for the Giants? And this guy popped up again because of the Bills connection, because of the fact that he's, a good against the run kind of guy. A guy that Joe Shane and Dave will have probably some kind of relationship with it, like I said. And he popped up. There might be a second guy that fits these kind of categories as well. If we can get 2 kind of AJ Espinosa kind of guys and spend $11, $12 million, guys, you just shirt up that edge room real quick. I'll throw it even out there like that. But I'll say this. Even if you get just one guy like that, I'm good. I don't think we need to go and rush and go crazy on the edge position, guys. I know a lot of people will tell you that we need to. We don't. Do we need talent there? Yes. We need a talented piece to put next to Kayvon Thibodeaux. But we don't need to go crazy because we don't have the money to do it. We don't have the ability to do it overall unless you want to, I guess, like I said before, unless you want to go ahead and not fill other needs. You're sacrificing at that point to do it. So here's the list we got of deemed not a fit. Josh Allen, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter, Bryce Huff, Chase Young, Jonathan Greenard, and Zadarius Smith. So basically, again, what we're telling you guys is if it's a big name, we probably don't want him because he's going to be too expensive. What it boils down to, we got to fit guys within a certain angle. And here's another thing I want people to consider as well that I haven't seen very much. As Connor, yes, we are still here. I see your comment, Connor. Says, after the season, Kayvon Thibodeaux is eligible for an extension. And Joe Shane's already showed he likes to extend people as soon as he can that he thinks are long-term fits. Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, he's done it. So he showed promise in his sophomore year, Kayvon did. If he continues to improve, he may turn into a very highly paid edge. If you sign a highly paid edge this year, this offseason, guys, you're basically kissing Kayvon goodbye. Because you're not going to pay 2 edge rushers $20, $25 million a year. You're not going to do it. It's not feasible. Yeah. And that's part of why I say this, is we're not going to get a big name. And I want you guys to think about this kind of stuff because I can't say how many other content creators I see out there for the Giants talking about these big names, that we have to get one of them. We have to get one of them because we have no pass rush. We have to get this guy. We have to get that guy. We already have the guy who's supposed to be the guy. And if he turns into the guy, you can't afford him if you go ahead and get somebody else. So that's not to say they're wrong, but you have to think of that in the situation. Is if you go out and sign, let's say Josh Allen doesn't get franchise tagged, and you go ahead and sign him now to a $25 million a year contract, you have to understand you're saying goodbye to Kayvon.
Yeah,
and if you're okay with that, that's fine.
Unless you find some veteran where you're going to pay that money to, where you're going to send to a 1-year contract. This way you can allocate it later down to Kayvon. But what does that do for your team?
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It doesn't.
But if you listen to guys who actually play, worked in front offices in the NFL, been prior GMs and all, These guys don't think about this offseason, guys. They think about multiple off seasons. They think about what's going to happen long term with this team. And that's the long-term prognosis you have to think about in these decisions. Same as they let Julian Love walk last year because they wanted to make sure they had the option to keep Xavier McKinney if they wanted to. That's part of their decision they had. This year, you have that with Kayvon. If you sign a big-name pass rusher, bye-bye Kayvon. He will not be here long-term because you can't afford them both. Unless you have it set up that you do like an out after 2 years kind of thing with this big edge rusher and you expect Kayvon to play in his 5th-year option and that kind of stuff. But then you run the risk of an angry Kayvon because he wants a long-term deal. Again, these are all thought process I want you all to think about when you talk about these kind of things, because I'll tell you, most people don't tell you guys to think about these things, but you have to. This is how the NFL works. Now on to the draft class. And this is where I become a real negative Nancy. This is a weak draft class at edge, guys. Point blank. It is a weak edge class. That's not to say there's not a couple guys in there. It's not to say you can't get somebody later on. But if you want a legit edge, this is not the edge class for you. The Senior Bowl showed that because the offensive linemen dominated the defensive linemen. And these are drills that you expect the defensive lineman to win. How you judge the offensive lineman is how long does it take for the defensive lineman to get through. And they couldn't get through in some of these cases. They were just dominated point blank. This is a good year if you need offensive linemen. It's a bad year if you need defensive linemen. So nothing should stop us from taking the right player if the right player is available at the right time and we think the need matches the abilities. But we need to cover getting a legit starter to go across Kayvon in free agency. That's where it's got to be. And you guys don't hear me say that often. I like to leave options open. This is a situation where we need to fix that in free agency. So here's where we're at for the projected roster here. So most 53-man rosters will keep 4 to 6 edge rushers. We got Kayvon. We have a free agent signing, whoever we sign. We have Azeez Ojulari, making him now a pass rush specialist. Again, guys, 16 career sacks in 35 games. If you don't think that man can rush the passer, you're not watching. Because this was actually his worst year. Last year, if you went to his stats last year and took out this year here, he had 13.5 sacks in 24 games.
Yeah, big difference.
Let's put him in the position he needs to be. Let's make him that pass rush specialist. And then for backups, you got Boogie Basham, Oshane Ximines, if we can sign him to a short deal again, and Tamon Fox. Don't get me wrong, guys. This is not a great lineup still. I'm not suggesting that. It's a realistic lineup, though. It's a realistic lineup. And if you can get Azeez Ojulari in the right position to keep him healthy, you can get somebody that's a legit edge rusher to be on the opposite side of Kayvon, like a AJ Espinosa kind of guy, like a Jadeveon Clowney, that you made the right move. You got it. You fix the starting lineup, and you just hope that the starters stay healthy. I hate to say it that way, but sometimes you do that. You just hope the guys stay healthy because you can't fix all the problems in one off season when you have issues. So that's where we're at. So we're trying to fix the one issue, which is having a second legit starter, and hoping that amongst the guys we have, one of them is a good backup. And we got to hope it's Azeez and he's healthy for once. So that's where we're at, guys. So, all right, let's pay the bills real quick. Let's get to the comments. And then we got a little bit of Giants and NFL news to go over with you guys here. And then we got to head on out here for the Nat.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All righty, guys. Let's get to the comments here real quick here. So Deb says Aerosmith started in 1970. Yeah. 90s, 70s, 20 years. I think if she's saying probably because, and this is bad. I said
76, 78.
Oh, is that what you said? Okay, I would say
I said 76, 78.
You know, Dream On. Dream
I
On was
asked
like
when-
1970, 1971, I want to say. So
Yeah,
she's
because I was
right on
asking
the
when
time.
Toys in the Attic came out, which is where Dream On came out, which is probably 71. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. I want to say
72.
Actually, Dream On was 73.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toys in the
Dream On
Attic was their second album.
Look at this. He's going to specific albums even. But yeah, I said they were good. They're still good. There's that crazy allegations occasionally against Steven Tyler. I don't know. I won't get into that, but I mean, listen, the band's good. The band's been good for 50 years. I'll take it. Deb says, I don't know. I have a sinking feeling about this team. Listen, there's a lot of people negative on this team. There's this. I think that it's crazy. People love to hate the Giants, but listen, we weren't a good team last year. There's not further to go, really, guys. We have nowhere to go but up at this point.
Yeah.
The truth. I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. Because watch us be like the Panthers next year. But if that's the fact, then there we go. If that's the case, then fine. We got the best quarterback in the draft next year. There's a silver lining no matter what. Like, I'm at that point where, like, there's nothing that you can do that can make me, like, extremely ticked off because we're already hitting bottom. We're already at the bottom, guys. Anthony says DJ was traded to the Falcons for the first-round pick and our first-round pick, WTF, and obviously that did not happen. Good try, Anthony.
Yeah.
He says, same with Simmons. Was Simmons traded as well? He says, that's why I'm in on any of these Dumas's quarterbacks that are supposed to be generation talent. And what he's saying is we talked about Chase Young, I think, because we said Chase Young was supposed to be this great, I think, since sliced bread. And he wasn't, and he isn't. Deb says, I like Clowney. There's your dad saying, howdy, boys. Howdy,
Howdy, Dad.
Nimar says, guys, Knicks won again tonight. Let's go. I got to be honest. I'm not a basketball guy.
Yeah, didn't watch.
Yeah, I used to love it back in the day, but I feel like we grew up in the best generation of basketball, and I can't get past. We grew up, it was like if you didn't hit 50%, you were on the bench. Now it's like you didn't hit 50%, you're on the All-Star game.
I was also never. I fought a little bit of basketball, but I was always a wrestler, and I was also big into hockey when I was younger. But
yeah, I was a big time Barkley fan before it was cool. I just liked his attitude.
Yeah, that's terrible.
No, even like the fact he got like bar fights because he refused to have a bartender, refused to have a bodyguard and stuff like that. Like it's just fun.
Yeah.
You know, and he the commercials he had. Like, remember he had a shoe commercial. And he's like, these are my shoes. They won't make you jump like me. They won't make you run like me. They won't let you rebound like me. They just give you the same damn shoes I have.
They're just so comfortable.
Connor says, wow, still here. Who's a chatty Cathy? How do you know my mother's name? Connor says, why does it seem other teams always have solutions for CSP and get whoever they want, but we always have issues? What is CSP? Is it cap? Is that what he meant to say? Because S is next to the A?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe that's what he means. Listen, you don't always go crazy on the cap because eventually you got to figure it out. I mean, look at we talked about it before. The Saints are having that problem now. The Saints are stuck in mediocrity because they're in cap hell. You can go get whoever you want whenever you have the quarterback because you're running for that title then at that point, you know. But you're not running for the title with Daniel Jones. So that's where we're at. It is what it is. All right, let's get into the news.
It's time for the news.
All right, it came out today. The Giants have ranked 7th overall in home attendance at 634,459. They also finished 3rd overall in attendance at 1,262,352. So yeah, it's kind of embarrassing to be 7th overall when you have like the most seats available. Like we literally have the biggest stadium in the NFL, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section.
Where did the Jets finish?
The Jets actually finished above us.
Oh,
so
that's probably because the tickets are way cheaper.
It's also because in the beginning people bought tickets because they had hoped for good things with Aaron Rodgers and they just didn't want to not go.
I guess. I mean, we also won a playoff game last year.
I know. I'm just saying that's my thought process of where I'm thinking. I'm just saying that's too high, guys. Listen, I love going to games, so I'm not even going to do my own advice, but I'm going to tell you this. Don't go until the Giants change their ways and win. Stop going. You want to piss them off, get their attention. That's how you do it.
You take that mini Coke and you just throw it on the ground.
Again, I'm not going to do it because I can't help myself. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I wish more people would not go. Empty stands would really go ahead and affect what they do going forward. Maybe John Mayer will stop meddling. On to actual football news, though. Daniel Jeremiah was asked about the Giants trading up with the Patriots to pick number 3. Talked about it before. The Patriots apparently aren't necessarily that keen on taking one of these quarterbacks that high. They want to build up their team. They want to go that route from everything I'm hearing. He said it would cost them 3 second-round picks. Now, keep in mind, we have 2 this year. We'd have 1 next year we'd give up as well. So I had to look it up. This is where Rob knows I love to do the math. I did the math.
Oh, this math.
I went to drafttext.com. They do their 2024 trade value chart. This is the Patriots number 3 pick is 2,220 points. Our number 6 pick is 1,600 points. So you're talking about 600 points you got to make up. Our second round picks this year, 510 points and 430 points. That puts us at 2,540 points to get their pick valued at 2,200 points, plus giving up next year's second round picks. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of overpaying. And that's what you'd be doing based on the chart. But I would also be more curious about giving up next year's first round pick instead to do it. I'd be more willing to give up next year's first than I would be to give up the 2 seconds this year and next year's second, just so I can develop around whoever quarterback we take in that scenario.
You have to have a lot of confidence on knowing that's your dude.
I'm just saying, but here's my whole thing, and this brought me to the point. If you make this trade, you better make sure that that's your dude. Because here's the thing, think about it. You're picking number 3. Guess what, guys? You're getting the leftovers. You're getting the scrapes of the lasagna out of the pan, guys.
Yeah.
Like Caleb Williams is going to go number 1 overall. I'm not buying the hype about Justin Fields. He's going to be a Bear. Number 2 would put you at the Commanders, who I think will take Jaden Daniels personally. They'll look at Drake May and Jaden Daniels and decide between the 2, or they'll be happy as a pick and shit if Caleb Williams happens to be available. But I think that they'll take Jaden Daniels, and that leaves us with Drake May. And this is besides my issues about Drake May and the schedule and stuff like that. Because, again, we haven't done our deep dive. We'll do that probably the next couple of weeks here. But do I think that Drake May is the guy to build a team around? That's what the question is going to be. And
definitely gets into those gambles.
Joe Shane better be sure if he makes that trade. Because I'm telling you right now, Joe Shane's butt's on the line if he makes that move and it doesn't work out. His job 100%. Is done. He's over. He's done. And the weird part about that is it also does reset the clock for him a little bit. You get a year or 2 to develop that quarterback. So it actually provides him with short-term job security, but long-term job on the line-ness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%, but I don't know.
He will live or die with that quarterback. Listen, if Jaden Daniels is there, I'm actually more higher than that right now than I am on Drake May. But like I said, who knows? We may do our deep dives here soon. And I go, oh my God, I know I see the hype on Drake May. But right now I don't see it. I just don't. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what goes on there. All right. We got some NFL news here real quick. Whoop. Oh, yes. The big news today, the punt god himself has come down from Olympus. Matt Araiza has been signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. He has never still played in an NFL game, despite being drafted 2 years ago while dealing with the charges and aftermath of the rape charges against a 17-year-old girl while he was in college. The Bills obviously quickly released him once that lawsuit was brought up back in 2022. All charges, though, have been dismissed. And on top of that, the local DA has said they do not plan on doing any charges on their end either. I don't want to just dismiss the part of it, the charges, the 17-year-old, and all that kind of stuff there. But I will say this. Are there people that do horrible things to women that never get charged for it? 100%, guys. 100%. But am I okay with living in a world where someone gets investigated, they get deemed not worthy of any charges, and then we punish them for the rest of their life anyway? That I'm not okay with.
No.
The guy was investigated, was not found of any wrongdoing. He needs to have a chance to live his life. Now, if new evidence comes up, new accusations come up, that's a different scenario 100%, guys. I will never, ever suggest that somebody who does the things he was accused for should not be punished for it. 100% they should be. But if they're not found guilty of it, this is the system we have, guys. So are there cracks in the system? Might he be there? Listen, there are plenty of people that do horrible things. Again, there's plenty of people that do horrible things to women and get away with it. I'm not suggesting he's 100% innocent either. I haven't reviewed the case. I haven't looked at the information. I just hope the Chiefs have. And if they feel confident that he's innocent and didn't do anything wrong, then go for it. Sign him again. The man has been, he has the right to earn a living.
He's clear of charges.
Yeah. Like, there's a middle ground here where you can go, okay, listen, we gave him a chance to get his shit together, so to speak. Gave him a chance to fight the charges. He fought the charges. He won. That means he deserves a chance to have a living and do what he does professionally. So he'll be the punter for them next year, it looks like. Keep in mind the Chiefs had all-pro punter Tommy Townsend last year, who obviously that means he probably will not be returning to the Chiefs. So that means if you need a punter, guys, and you're in the NFL, the best one last year is going to be probably available.
I was going to say, you're going to have a Super Bowl winning punter.
Yeah. And it makes sense because I'm sure Azeez probably signed for the veteran minimum, whatever that is for a guy who's never played a game in the league. He's not really a veteran, but he's probably signed for the minimum. And now you got a guy who's going to be the highest paid punter in the league, probably. And you just save some money. This is what you got to do. And it's you're gonna have a lot of people to pay when you win Super Bowls. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But by the way, the highest paid punter in the league, I had to look it up, is Michael Dixon of the Seahawks, $3.67 million. Not a bad salary to kick the ball around a couple times a game.
Yeah.
So I always say if I have a child, they're going to learn to kick a football
Or throw a baseball left at it.
No, God no. Baseball, I can't. I don't know. Baseball just bores me. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like watching hockey, soccer. Spend 5 hours waiting for 1 or 2 points.
Or a fight. It's hockey.
I thought they don't fight anymore as much as they used to.
They still fight.
Okay.
Hey, listen. Actually, in MetLife Stadium, when the Rangers played the Islanders on Sunday, it was within the first 3 minutes there was a fight.
I used to watch. I used to love watching the hockey fights on SportsCenter the next morning, but I never watched the games.
Oh.
I'm
a terrible hockey fan these days, but I used to go to a lot of games at Prudential Center. But here we are. Next
up, we got some rumors about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is rumored to be a cap casualty potentially for the Browns. He's got a cap hit currently of $15.8 million. And by releasing him, the Browns would free up $11.8 million. Oh. That's a pretty decent chunk of change there, obviously. Nick Chubb is rehabbing from that, that horrible knee injury that I was going to say this. If you Google the term knee injury Nick Chubb, you'll get the quick video of it. It's nasty. Looks really brutal. I feel bad for the man. Had at least 2 surgeries that I was able to see on a quick Google search there on that knee, ACL, and all that kind of fun stuff there. Others are saying he's not going anywhere. So it's a situation to kind of keep an eye on. But I'll say this. The business aspect of it says cut him. Because he's probably not going to come back and be the player he was. The heart side of me, the moral side, says the guy hurt himself playing for your team. You should pay the man.
Yeah.
Like, that's a horrible thing to like, I lost all this money because of it. And I really wish the Players Association would come back in the next time they do these negotiations and come up with a middle ground term where they can say, you know what? We're going to
part ways.
We're going to part ways with the guy because of injuries and injury concerns, but we're still going to pay him and it won't affect the salary cap.
Yes.
Because and it's hard to figure that out and not have teams or players abuse it. It really is. But if this happens and this man loses out on that money, that's a freaking shame. That really is. And maybe it's you have to have an independent arbitrator look at it and go, okay, is this a legit use of that rule?
Maybe it might be worth it too, because when you're talking about losing close to $12 million off of this crazy freak accident.
Well, I'd have to look at his overall thing. So he wouldn't lose that. What he would lose is just his salary this year. Keep in mind that what they're paying him is just the rest of his salary cap. I'd have to look at what his actual salary for the year is. Let me see here. Google search here. His base salary, actually, it works out that way. It's $10.8 million.
So
is what his base salary this year was. 11.8 next year. Yeah. So yeah, it's a player option for $1 million plus the $3 million signing bonus. So yeah, it's a lot of money to give up, all because you got hurt in the field. It's not fair. Don't get me wrong, life's not fair. But it shouldn't affect the cap, and they got to figure a way to make that fair for players. They really do, because if that happens, that's a goddamn shame. And the next time you see a guy afraid to make a cut on the field, no, that's why. Because he's making a business decision. Same as the Browns would in this case be making a business decision. We can't slam the player for making a business decision and then applaud the team for doing the same goddamn thing. It's a double standard.
Yeah.
It really is. All right. One last bit of news here. I'm kind of shoving this in because this is, to me, a little bit Giants related here. We keep talking about Xavier McKinney this offseason and what to do with him. And I still think positional value, and I think somebody's going to overpay for him, and I don't want to be the one to do it. That being said, interesting news that safety Geno Stone is said to be potentially interested in moving on because he wants a starting role, and Ravens already have two guys there that are slated to start at the safety position that are signed long-term. He got to start this year because of injuries, though. So he really broke out last year, 68 tackles, 7 interceptions, a PF grade of 71.9, while racking up 11 starts, but appearing in all 17. Spotrac, again, we go back to them. Again, they're a good source here for this kind of stuff. They're listing his market value at $7.2 million, guys. And this brings up my discussion we had a little bit yesterday with Xavier McKinney. If you can get him a replacement for that 80 cents of the dollar of abilities, but pays him half as much money, is it a sound business decision? Is a guy like Geno Stone someone to look at instead of signing long-term Xavier McKinney, who's going to want more than twice that, guys? I guarantee you someone's going to pay him $16, $17 million.
Yeah,
it's a lot of freaking money, guys. And again, 68 tackles, 7 interceptions, 11 starts, so he wasn't all 17 games. I don't want to make it seem like he didn't play at all those 6 other games there. But again, this is a guy that's shown potential, would be much cheaper, and probably wouldn't come with a lot of risk either, because you wouldn't be signing him probably to a huge guaranteed money. I said this
2 full hands.
I saw the notes, and I was like, and I was looking at things that are going on in the NFL today, and I was like, you know what, this is a good thing to put up as NFL news, and for that reason, I think it affects the Giants as well. As we both take water at the same time, there's the silence. Thirsty though today. I know what it is. But yeah, like I said, I think that's a smart move personally. We'll see how it works out, but I think that's a smart move. Alrighty, guys, we're gonna call it a night here. So we're going to be back on, of course, Monday. Next week, we're going to wrap. Next week, we're going to wrap up our State of the Team series here, assuming that nothing else is going on big news-wise for the Giants. We're going to be on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. So Monday, we'll be doing the linebackers. Wednesday, we'll be doing the secondary. We're going to kind of combine the secondary because those parts are kind of interchangeable. You have safeties that play as corners that play as safeties. So we're just going to combine them secondary. And then, of course, Thursday we'll do the exciting special teams.
Oh, yes.
I know everyone loves the special teams, guys. But listen, we will be discussing the special teams, and we will probably be bashing Joe Shane for a certain draft pick throughout the entire time.
Yeah, somewhere around the 5th, something like that.
Yes. I don't know. It's my mind's going gray. I can't picture who it is now. Anyway,
I can remember.
Appreciate you guys listening in, as always, watching in, as always. There, if you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the share button there. Send it to friends. Tell a friend. Tell some friends. We'll be back on, like I said, next week. There for you. As always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter/X, Twitch. And, of course, Instagram and Rob's favorite, my LinkedIn profile. Oh, yes. And, of course, as always, we are available the next day, usually 5 o'clock in the mornings when I set it to go ahead and released for the audio podcast versions. They're available on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, wherever you watch or listen, not watch, to audio podcasts. Wherever you watch audio podcasts. Who doesn't love watching a good audio podcast?
Great audio here.
Oh, my God. The video quality is amazing on this audio podcast.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. On Monday.
Monday.
Oop, there's an ant on my microphone. That's the weirdest thing. Why is there an ant on my microphone? Anyway, seriously, it was red. It probably was a fire ant. No, in Florida. That's what we are.
Eat it.
No, God, no. The red is not for cinnamon. Literally, I have to sprinkle stuff around my yard to try to get rid of the fire ants. That's how bad it is. Getting attacked by fire ants is not fun. It's not fun, guys.
Yeah.
There's a reason they call them fire ants. I've had it happen. Not
gonorrhea.
Cool. No, I haven't had gonorrhea happen, though. Anyway, we'll see you guys Monday, next episode. Enjoy the weekend. As always, Giant fans.
Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.